Hello YouTube, shintigercurl here, that dude in the straw hat. There we go. Bringing you yet another awesome video. It's Monday night. You know what that means? No, not time for Monday Night Football. No, not time for Dancing with the Stars. No, not time for Gotham, although I will watch that later. No, not time for Scorpion. I definitely will watch that later. No, it's time for some Raw. We are 1 week away from the second oldest pay-per-view in WWE history, Survivor Series. With the tournament reaching its final matches, as well as a few other matches being held this Sunday, what's going to happen? Got my notes? Let's get to it. Before the show starts proper, all the WWE superstars and staff come out to give a moment of silence for victims of the tragic terrorist attacks that happened in Paris, France over the weekend. So if you haven't seen my other video where I discuss my thoughts and feelings on it and the repercussions of it, I'll leave an annotation in the video. You can watch it there. I won't linger on it anyway, but I'll just say, Vive la France. First up, The Undertaker and Kane come out, flanked by the Druids, and as some of my friends on the CBR forum say, the Taker says something, 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 dark side. Kane says something, 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 hellfire. And says they will face off against any two members of the Wyatt family this Sunday. And once again, we are left out of a potential great Survivor Series style matchup in favor of just a plain old tag team matchup. I really wanted them to have a true team battle. The Wyatts versus the Brothers of Destruction, whoever they can bring. Anyway, the Wyatts come out. Bray's talking that shit. And even though they could take him out now, they're going to wait to Survivor Series. First matchup is the first matchup of the WWE's World Heavyweight Title BUDOKAI tournament to determine who will be the new World Heavyweight Champion. The first quarterfinal matchup pits the man that gravity forgot, Neville, against the Intercontinental Champion, Kevin Owens. This was a fantastic opening matchup. You can tell that these two have had they have a deep history together and have a great amount of chemistry. There were some fantastic spots in this matchup. So Neville looked strong. Kevin Owens looked strong. It was a great match that added a sense of urgency to winning the World Heavyweight title. But in the end, Fight Owens fight, won over, fly Neville fly. So yeah, Kevin Owens has made it into the semifinals. Has made it into the semifinals. All of which the remaining matches will happen this Sunday at Survivor Series. Next up in his second match on the roster, Prince Pretty, Tyler Breeze takes on R-Truth. This was an okay match. Prince Pretty had too much of a little more difficulty with R-Truth than he really should have. But it was okay. It was decent for what it was. A nice little buffer match between the other matches. And Prince Pretty wins his first main roster match against R-Truth. The Jimmies are gonna be sad. Next up, the second of our quarterfinal matchups. Dolph Ziggler versus Dean Ambrose. The match unbelievably starts with a nice catch-as-catch-can technical mat-style wrestling match, which is not something you could see something like this from Ziggler, but you don't see this much from Ambrose. And it was a fucking amazing thing to watch in this day and age. This was a long and brutal and just exciting matchup, but in the end, surprisingly, Titty Master wins. So he moves on and he will face Kevin Owens this Sunday in their semifinal matchup. And he cuts a great promo about how things are going to change when he's world champion. And one thing that pretty much everyone agrees on, he wants to replace Michael Cole with a fish tank. And people wonder why we love this guy. Anyway, backstage stuff happens with Triple H talking to both Cesaro and Kevin Owens, and eventually Alberto Del Rio, trying to make one of them the guy. But anyway, move on to our next match. The New Day versus the Usos and Ryback. Of course, the New Day, being the trolling awesome that they are, trolls the Usos and Ryback. Unfortunately, the match ends in foobar because Ryback frustrated and tired of Big E's gyrating hips, decides to push the referee and the match is foobarred. New Day win, but they get beaten down. But man. Next up, the match that everyone was waiting for and afraid for. Roman Reigns versus Cesaro. Now this was a great match. But here's the thing. Roman Reigns looked good, but Antonio Cesaro looked better. And this just goes to show you just what their priorities are as the guy that Vince and all the higher-ups are high on, that's getting the push to the main event, that has been getting the push all year, did not look as great as the guy that Vince doesn't get, doesn't understand, and won't push, but who's been consistently wowing and amazing crowds in all of his matches. I mean, tonight he pulled off a cartwheel on the top rope. How many motherfuckers in the WWE in wrestling can pull some shit like that off? Cesaro is a phenomenon. What the fuck is he? He is an amazing, amazing athlete. Just when you think you have him pegged, you think you've seen all that you can see from Cesaro, he pulls something out of his ass. What more can you say about Cesaro? He honestly, seriously deserves a push. A legitimate push. By now, he should have been world champion or at least a main eventer. But unfortunately, because Vince doesn't get him, that just sucks for him. I actually got into a discussion with someone else on the forum who said, "Oh, Cesaro, he's okay, but I mean, he's a great in-ring performer, but he doesn't have the mic skills to be world champion." And thankfully, I reminded him, yeah, because all the great champions have had great mic skills. Don't tell that to Bret Hart. But Roman Reigns has a great look, the look of a main eventer. Yeah, CM Punk and Daniel Bryan say hi. Yeah. The point of the matter is I'm trying to make here is a wrestler can have limited skills in the ring, limited charisma, and very limited mic skills, and yet he can be champion. I'm looking at you, Great Khali. But yet, on the flip side of that, a guy can have all the tools and all the talent and all the charisma in the world and never get even close to a world title run. You got your William Regals, your $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase's, your Ravishing Rick Rudes, your Honky Tonk Men, your Hot Rod, Roddy Piper, God rest his soul. The list goes on and on of great in-ring talents who never reach the main event level. This just goes to show you. I mean, he says Cesaro doesn't have the mic skills to be world champion, but yet Roman Reigns, a guy with limited in-ring ability and shaky mic work, is getting hot shot at it to the main event twice this year. So yeah, there's that. But yeah, Roman Reigns wins, of course. We all knew it, but Cesaro still looked fan-fucking-tastic. Push this man, Vince. Push him. Next up, another little breather match. The Ascension versus the Dudley Boyz. Your standard tag team match. Dudley Boyz win. Not much to say about that. And now we move on to the final quarterfinal matchup between one half of the Lucha Dragons, Callisto, and the United States champion, Alberto Del Rio. This is the weakest of the tournament matches because it just seemed like, well, it just seemed more like a curb stomp. I mean, Callisto got some offense in, but it just seemed like he couldn't get the blocks and that Del Rio had him in firm control during the entire match. It was good, but just not as good as the ones that came before. ADR wins, and he will face off against Roman Reigns this Sunday in the semifinal matchups. Last but not least, surprisingly, to finish the show off, we have the Divas contract signing between Paige and Charlotte. Now, Charlotte pulls off perhaps the best promo of her career. She doesn't talk about how great her family, about how great her father is, or anything else legacy wrestlers might talk about. No, she kind of brings up her brother, who sadly passed away some time ago, and talks about how when he died, Paige was there for him, was there for her, but then Paige turned her back on him. Paige, being Paige, the crazy bitch heel, was being a crazy bitch heel, and you could see Charlotte getting steadily angrier and angrier with her. Then Paige goes off into this tangent where she rips on Ric Flair, just says, "Why don't you bring your crippled ass in here and elbow drop your coat like you should?" And Charlotte was like, "You shut your mouth." Then she goes way below the belt. First, Charlotte says that every member of her family are fighters and will keep fighting, and that eventually she will lose the title. And it won't be this Sunday, and it won't be to Paige. Then Paige says something to the effect of, if that was true, if all the Flairs were fighters, then your brother didn't fight very much." And then Charlotte laid into her. She just went off on her, just started beating the crap out of her, and woo, that was a burn right there. I mean, yeah, you don't talk about that kind of shit, a dead relative. Woo. I don't know if she ad-libbed that or what have you, but Charlotte looked legitimately pissed, and she looked like she just wanted to rip Paige a new one. I hope that wasn't the case. I hope they got this. They settled this, and they got what they were going to say at the start, because if she just brought that out just to bring it out, man. But yeah, that was Raw. My thoughts? Pretty okay show. The tournament matches were in and of themselves very exciting, and each had their own different types of pace to them, depending on the people who were involved in the match. We had some nice little buffer matches to kind of cleanse our palate with the tournament matches so we don't get burnt out. The Divas contract signing was far more eventful than I ever thought it could possibly be. So, and also a nice little tribute, as this week we lost one of our WWE legends, Hall of Famer Nick Bockwinkel, a man who JBL calls the greatest AWA champion of all time. We'll miss you, Nick. So anyway, that's my video. Like what you see? Link, comment, subscribe below. Got any questions, comments, or just want to talk about this Raw? Leave it below. I will get back to you personally. Want to support the channel? Patreon is in the link. It doesn't take much to support me. I just needed to live and what have you. Nice to have a little extra money in your pocket. Also, we'll be used to get a new camera, so I can shoot in a better quality and a better mic. So my current mic is kind of ass. Also, I'll leave my Twitter in the description in case you want to follow me on Twitter or get in contact with me. Tip jar's up there. You know what to do. Till next time, it's shintigercurl, that dude in the straw hat, saying good night. And Paige, that was cold-blooded.